Peace and blessings, everyone. Welcome back. Queen Osset here. Today, I am going to do a walkthrough of a brand new deck that arrived in the shop. Some of you have already started to receive this deck. Can you tell I'm very excited? I must say that I'm in love with the guidebook more so than the cards. But let's get to it. As you can see from the intro picture, this is the very first card, the Fool card of the Forest of Enchantment Tarot. So you're going to get a very close-up view of the box because of my setup here. I am trying to record from an iPad, and I've got all kinds of rigging going on. Anyway, it's a typical Llewelyn box, you know, the hard shell that everyone loves. Magnetic closure, and of course it had all of the innards that go inside, you know, to hold the deck. I've already butchered my innards because I'm going to use this card for a particular working. It's not a card, it's what I cut out, what's left over of the innards. Anyway, it's called the Forest of Enchantment Tarot by Lunaea, Weatherstone, and Meraylah Allwood, illustrated by Meraylah Allwood. And what I love most about this is the guidebook. So since I've butchered my innards, I shall be keeping my cards in this bag, which I was told is a Celtic tree, but I see the Margaret David in here. So that has a particular meaning for me, and I'll discuss that in a later video. Of course, the guidebook is fabulous. I mean, it's not as thick and juicy, but it's still a good-sized guidebook. Let me take this off. I hope that's in a good spot. So, the guidebook has color photos of all the cards inside. You're getting a very close-up view. That's the back of the cards, believe it or not. Yeah. Okay. So, this is what the back of the card looks like. Let's see, I have that right? Okay. Could be read in reversal as well. So, Lunaea says that the forest is part of the human psyche, from fairy tales and folklore to Arthurian legends and Tolkien. In popular modern books, TV shows, and movies, the forest is where enchantment is found. As Sarah Maitland writes in her book, From the Forest, A Search for the Hidden Roots of Fairy Tales, the forest is a place of trial in fairy stories, both dangerous and exciting. Coming to terms with the forest, surviving its terrors, utilizing its gifts, and gaining its help is the way to happily ever after. Myriad characters and creatures dwell in the forest, but for most humans in these tales, it is a place you pass through to get somewhere else. You can't see very far ahead in the forest, as you can in an open landscape or on the sea. Things may change quickly for good or ill. You may find what you seek, or you may not even know what you seek until you find it. The Forest of Enchantment draws inspiration from many forest tales, but without direct reference to particular stories. You can make your own associations with the cards without having to adhere to any single storyline. If the wizard in the suspension card reminds you of Merlin, then that's who he is. If, on the other hand, he reminds you of late Luke Skywalker, then that's also true. In the Forest of Enchantment, you will meet witches and wizards of several varieties, fairies and elves, birds and beasts, both earthly and otherworldly, ghosts and shapeshifters, and sad old knights. The forest itself is alive with mystery. Gnarled trees, magical blossoms, sparkling caves, woodland pools, and thickets of thorns. Our enchanted forest is British at its roots, as this is where my imagination dwells, and where Meraylah, the artist, actually does dwell. She knows the magic of the ancient English forest firsthand, and you will see and feel that in her art. The Forest of Enchantment is welcoming and forbidding, beautiful and bewildering. It is where you can seek your fortune or your own true nature, a place of delight and a place of grim despair. Follow the white heart and begin your adventure. So, of course, the guidebook has tarot basics. There's been a renaming of the major arcana, and you'll see that as we go through the cards. There's been a renaming of the minors, the suits. Wands are spells. Cups are visions. Swords are challenges. And pentacles are boons. And that's pretty intuitive. It's not too far-fetched that a beginner would have an issue working with this deck. There's a section in here on the care and feeding of your deck. Frequently asked questions. You'll see that. The one thing that I really do love about this guidebook and the cards is a segment called A Closer Look. And as we go through the cards, you'll see what I'm talking about. It says here, each card description includes a closer look. These bits of lore and detail are meant to encourage a visual way of reading and understanding the cards. You can just stumble through the forest trying to find your way out, or you can look where you are right now and appreciate the journey itself. A closer look helps you across symbol language, and that's where enchantment is found. And I have found that this segment, A Closer Look, will be very helpful for when I go into the forest or into the woods in a few weeks. Anyway, on with the show. We're 6 minutes in. Of course, there's a segment on shuffling, and I'm telling you, this guidebook is something else. So, the first card we have here, of course, is, see if I can do this without fumbling too much. I hope you all can see that. The White Heart. At the edge of the deep forest stands an invitation to enchantment. When you see a pure white deer, you are being called to follow it, and only the foolish will ignore such a beckoning. And yet it takes trust to enter the forest, to explore the unknown and the uncharted. Mysteries await you, according to what your soul needs for its journey. There are surprises around every bend in the woodland path, and often there is no path at all. The white heart opens a portal into the wild, and your own wild heart responds. Step forward through the swirling mist into the realm of apple and oak, ash and hawthorn, fir and willow, holly and hazel. There may be companions along the way, and adversaries too. The first step into the forest must be taken on your own. And then, of course, the traditional name is a fool, but again, the closer look. So she explains here that the trees that are named in the descriptions are shown on the card, clockwise from the left. Each has a magical meaning. So I'm going to see if I can do this. But if we're starting here, all the way around, she has listed all the trees. And we start here with apple for the other world, oak for endurance, ash for action, hawthorn for protection, fir for perspective, willow for intuition, holly for challenge, and hazel for wisdom. And so all the trees listed are around the card. Next we have, take this off, the Enchanter. And she talks about his sleeves here and here. The Enchanter sleeves are trimmed in otter fur, which is a protective charm often used by wizards. The Enchanter conjured the fur without harming any otters, of course. The Wise Woman, otherwise known as the High Priestess, and she's wearing a necklace of amber and jet, which invokes the energies of light and dark, day and night, illumination and mystery. And you can see her necklace right there. Green Mother, Come and sit at the feet of the Green Mother and be sheltered by her love. I mean, these words just pull you in. And then, of course, we have the Forest Lord. Oops. And it says here, the Forest Lord represents the duties that come with great power, protecting his subjects, defending their freedom, and safeguarding their sanctuary. Leadership is a privilege. Authority over others must be wielded appropriately and not abused. Sovereignty comes from within and does not need to be insisted upon. The Forest Lord's confidence comes from staying true to his noble nature. And then on closer look, of course, his antlers. It talks about holly and oak upon his antlers represent the eternal cycle of life, renewing itself. Oak rules the light half of the year, holly rules the dark. And I think this is one of my favorite images in the deck, which is the oldest one. And wow, I don't know about you guys, but wow. Anyway, I don't follow the Wheel of the Year, but just looking at this imagery, and a coworker of mine said that a lot of the cards reminded her of Maurice Sendak's Where the Wild Things Are, that soft, ethereal, pencil sketch, light paint imagery, but still filled with life. And this one, the oldest one, when I look at it, I would love to have an art print of this deck. It just, whew, my body just tingles every single time I look at this. And, oh boy, the forest is old and full of stories. The hedgehog child, the rabbit's bride, the sleeping princesses, the foolish son, the faithful sister, the poisoned apple, every traveler who passes through adds a story strand to the glittering web of enchantment. The preservation of all these stories is entrusted to the oldest one, memory keeper of the forest. This venerable yew tree has seen 3,000 summers and more. With age comes the ability to see the big picture with calm and contemplation and deep-rooted understanding. The oldest one welcomes you and bids you to stay a while. Ask for the story you most need to hear right now, and then add your own tale to the living library of lore. Oh, my gosh. I'm telling you, it's just... And then on closer look, it tells you, do you see the owl? I'm going to use my finger. See the owl? That gives you an idea of how big the oldest one is. Then we get to the lovers. And I'll try not to read on everything, but oh my gosh, I just... you have to get the deck. I have to save something for you guys. This is another one of my favorites. The Fairy Wind. Oh, let's see. The Fairy Wind. You hear a rushing sound in the distance, growing louder as it approaches. It is the sound of treetops dancing in a wind that comes closer and closer until it's upon you, lifting your hair and cooling your cheeks. You are surrounded by a sudden fragrance of bluebells and moss and honey. This is no ordinary breeze. It betokens the wild flight of the fae. They flash into your view, imperious, haughty, beautiful beyond words. Your heart yearns after them with a sharp urgency to go where they go and see what they can see. But never attempt to chase them. Trust me, it will not turn out well. The fairies follow their own path, and you must follow yours. And then on a closer look it says, legends tell of people who were swept up by the fairy wind and deposited miles away. If this happens to you, don't be in a rush to return. I'm telling you, this deck is filled with so much. Every single card, I have not been disappointed. I mean, I just spent some time just with the majors, so I have to be honest with you. I don't even know what the minors hold, but just the majors alone. This, the strength card. Once upon a time, a young girl walked into the vast and fearsome forest. She went of her own volition, and she wore a crimson cloak that made her easily visible to any creature that might observe her progress through the dark woods. And indeed, once upon a time, a great wolf was watching her. You may think you know the rest of the story. Deception, violence, and vengeance. And I'm going to stop there. And then we have the Hermit. And this is a badger. Let's see. And it says here, the Amaryllis bear, which is that, was a gift from the Enchanter, who is a similar one. Notice his inclusive friend, or notice his reclusive friend admiring it on his own rare visits. And so, now, oops. We have the wheel, or the Enchanter's wheel. I love the spiral shape that's happening there. See that? Did I give you a little tidbit about that? It has several plants in there. The center star is formed of plants that have healing, magical, and poisonous properties, which is that right there. Yarrow, magical protection. Skullcap, sleep and trance. Agrimony, fairy medicine. Foxglove, heart healer and poison. And vervain, antidote to poison. 7 magpies are present, whether egg, feather, skull, or bird. Of course, we have the Huntsman. So one of the questions that was posed to me is if we have animals that look like humans and humans dressed as animals in this deck. No. No, no. And I'm happy to hear that and happy to see that. So we have the Huntsman here. The huntsman's horn is blown to call the wild hunt that rides through the forest on May Eve and All Hallows Eve. It is also blown as a lament at the death of an innocent. Suspension. The dragonfly is a symbol of change and self-realization. The presence of a dragonfly in the sorcerer's amber cocoon is an affirmation that he is on the right track in his pursuit of wisdom. You know, when the amber is solidified, the sorcerer was head downward like an infant in the womb. In the proper time, he will release himself from his chamber of deepening and emerge reborn. I don't think I've been this excited about a deck in a while, and you know, I've gotten a lot of decks in the recent months. So this one, I'm fascinated by this deck. This card, rather. This is the Black Shook. Of the otherworldly beings that dwell in the woods, few are as fearsome as the Black Shook, for he is a portent of death. Is your heart beating a little faster now? He is one of the spectral hounds who roam the earth, haunting the bleakest moors and the darkest forests. You may have heard him clawing and whining at your very door. Now he meets you among the gravestones, illuminated by lightning flashes. Don't worry, he won't harm you. Black Shook comes not to take your life, but as a memento mori, a reminder that death awaits you, and life is not to be wasted. Look into his fiery eyes. Let him know you understand his message. If you have the courage, extend a cautious hand and feel his cold breath. He knows your scent, and he will find you again. Sooner or later, Black Shook comes for all of us. Oh my gosh. This is going to be an exciting deck to take into the woods. This will be an exciting deck. And at a closer look, it says, as you stand in the misty graveyard, you can just make out some of the designs on the weathered old stones. What would you want on your own? And we have this. The Forge. Oh, Wow. The story of building this forge and, oh, yeah. Okay. And this guy. Oops. All right. The liar as opposed to the devil. Right? The liar beckons you, coaxes you closer. His voice is mellifluous, throaty, sensual, the voice you always wanted to hear. He promises delicious secrets, things he has never shared with another living soul. But you are special. You are the one he's waited for, the worthy one, his chosen one. Come closer. It is safe to leave the path, truly. It's only a little way off the path, a mere nothing. You can always run back if you wish. He won't stop you. There is nothing to fear. His staff is just a walking stick, not a serpent. There is no rat peering from his hair. His own eyes deceive you. Come closer. This one, the Folly. And the story behind this imagery, this card is just so, wealth and people of wealth, what they think they can do without any repercussions. Let's just say the Folly signifies the ending of indulgent and worthless vanities. I just get the guidebook and you'll understand what I'm talking about. Oh my gosh. Okay, then we have Starlight. And again, the closer look, beech and linden trees are calming, peaceful, and strong. The beech is known as the queen of trees. Moonlight. Hares go mad in the moonlight, wild with lunatic ecstasy. They dance and leap, and suddenly stand motionless, frozen, bewitched. They return to themselves when the dawn breaks, most of the time. It is said that those who sleep in the moonlight either go mad or become poets. The poet Byron wrote, "There is a dangerous silence in that hour, a stillness which leaves room for the full soul to open all itself without the power of calling wholly back its self-control. Perhaps our lives is but a dream, and we are all as mad as the moon hares." Then we have Sunlight. And this is the piper. Let's see. Who plays a melody. Happiness, well-being. Thrush and blackbird are singing the morning chorus. Primroses and celandine symbolize their springtime sun. And then we come to the imagery that's on the back, or rather on the front of the box, the Council of Animals. Wow. The Council of Animals convenes at fateful turning points to evaluate the traveler's progress and rule in judgment for the future. Each council animal has its own unique wisdom, insight, perspective. Each is authentically itself and expects you to be too. Don't overthink, or don't ever think that you can fool the council or yourself. It is a time for reckoning. When you are called before the Council of Animals, it is a sign that you are ready to face some tough truths. Epiphanies are possible. You may begin to see a new purpose for your life. At the very least, you'll come to know yourself better, toady warts and all. And then there's a spread. For help from the council, see the spread on page 206. closer look, there are 12 animals on the council, and they change every 12th moon to allow for different points of view. When the fish are on the council, the meetings take place at the sacred lake. And then we come back to the heart. And here you are, back at the portal. The lessons of the forest and all your experiences therein have brought you to this place. And on a closer look, there is a sacred tour not too far away. Go there first and walk the spiral path to the standing stones. From there you can look back on your forest journey. And that is the majors. Now we go into the minors. As I said, the minors are broken down into spells, visions, challenges, and boons. And then the pages are child, seeker, weaver, and keeper for page, knight, queen, respectively. And let's see, we shall begin with, I'm going to do this rather quickly because we've been at this for 26 minutes. And so the book is separated into all aces first, all twos, and then threes. So it's separated numerologically. And let's see what I can do here. Give me a minute to separate all four. Challenges. And actually, I better put them in order so I know what I'm doing here. And boons. Okay. So, ace of spells, visions, challenges, and boons. We'll take a look at the aces first. See, crooked, spells, challenges, visions. Oh, I've got them out of order. And boons. I reordered them. I'm going to reorder them. Okay, so those are your aces. Spells. If something catches my eye, these are your twos. Let's see, anything catch my eye? Not yet. Well, they all did, but I'm just curious here. 3 of spells. Let's see, I have here walnut shells filled with beeswax and magic are set alight and released upon a forest stream. That gives me an idea. It says, walnut lore says that if someone gives you a bag of walnuts, your most recent wish will come true. 3 of visions, 3 dancing bears. Friendship, pastimes, of course. Your 3 of challenges here. Let's see. A desperately poor man has brought his little daughter and son far into the forest, intending to leave them to their fate. At home, only slow starvation awaits them. Perhaps among the wild beasts, their end will be quicker. This is a terrible moment. It is a moment when the father abandons his children. His children are puzzled, but they trust him. They will wait for his return. You've heard this tale before. Alas, there have been many children abandoned in the enchanted forest. In the stories, they frequently do quite well for themselves, but the brutal betrayal is not easily overcome. This card signifies a hardening of emotions and fateful decisions made in a moment of weakness and fear. It is a warning to protect yourself, and it also cautions against hurting others. There are many kinds of betrayal and many ways to break your own heart. Magical brambles rapidly grow across the path, springing from the anguished tears of the fleeing father. We all know that story. Okay, and then we have the Three of Boons. Whoops, everything falls down now. Okay. Cooperation, of course. Let's see. The earth goblin sorts through the mushrooms she's gathered. She lives close to the ground and has a keen eye for each growing thing's usefulness. The old witch brews and bottles the potion. She sprinkles a good pinch of enchantment, adding power to the pot as she stirs. The raven writes out the spell instructions and affixes them to bottles that will be sealed with beeswax. Her expertise comes from poetry and from instinct. Now we move on to the fours. 4 spells. 4 of visions. 4 of challenges. I'm curious about that. Tree. The forbidding winter forest offers little in the way of comforts or relief. Thorns, icicles, and sharp frozen branches torment the weary traveler. And then you come upon a miracle. In the midst of the gloom shines a green-leaf Rowan Tree in full berried fruit. Of all the trees in the enchanted forest, Rowan offers the most powerful protection from both magical and earthly attacks. The earth around the tree is also green, providing a blessed space of sanctuary and repose. For Boons. Okay, that looks pretty much self-explanatory, but still, the guidebook. 5 spells, 5 of visions, the loss. Oh boy. It says, after the pause of the fours, the fives get things moving again. In the tales of the forest, the fives are the point at which the plot thickens. Your response will determine what happens next. The 5 of spells says you must increase your skills. The 5 of vision says you must face disappointment. The 5 of challenges says you must choose your battles. And the 5 of boons says you must ask for help. 5 of challenges. Well, there you go. Well, let's see. Let's see what this guy has to say. When you come upon a giant, it is safe to assume that he is not interested in anything you have to say. So save your breath for running. There are friendly giants, but they are rare in the general giant population, as are giants with a sense of humor. This giant isn't comical at all, nor is he a stereotypical stupid bumbler. He is dangerous, not because he's evil, but because he's big. He also has a short temper, and he's given you one chance to get out of his space before he deals with you. The giant signifies a situation in your life where you might be overestimating your chances against your opponent. Sometimes being quicker in an argument just doesn't work because the others will not or cannot engage you that way. Do not equate slowness with stupidity, and don't equate stupidity with harmlessness. Stay on the alert until you know who and what you are dealing with. Oh my. And it says here, see the bones in his beard? Don't add yours to his collection. And then we have the Five of Boons. Okay. Take those off. Six of Spells. Six of Wands. Oh, we have the Dragon being added to the fold. Six of Visions. I can imagine myself laying in a forest like that, just reading my book. Oh, Six of Challenges. Yeah. You know, it seems like the challenge cards really intrigue me. This one talks about when you are pursued by slavering wolves, the wisest course is to get out of their reach as quickly as possible. This card suggests that you should consider such a strategic treatment or strategic retreat, perhaps an actual retreat away from home or work for a time. Give yourself a respite from strife. Rest, recover, and plan your next step. Wow. Phew, that was a narrow escape. Far too close for comfort. Dwarves don't usually climb trees if they can help it. But this dwarf scaled the ash tree as nimbly as a squirrel when the wolves started chasing her. There's no need for her to plan what to do next, since she can't fight a pack of wolves. She needs to just wait them out. When they've lost interest in her, she can hurry home to a well-earned supper. Wolves in the mundane world aren't menacing, but these are old world storybook wolves, and notoriously big and bad, and they will eat you up. Six of Boons, Six of Pentacles. Wow. Oh. Okay. For the sevens, we have, now that you're all rested up from the sixes, the sevens present you with some problems to solve. Each seven holds a predicament and a choice to take action or not yet. The Seven of Spells says, stand your ground. The Seven of Visions says, distill your desires, meaning, choose something. Get focused on what you want, yeah? The Seven of Challenges says, there is danger afoot. See, the foxes are making off with everything from the caravan. And the Seven of Boons. I love it. The many doors there. Says your options are increasing. Which door do you go through? I like that. Seven of Pentacles. But, let me see. I'm curious. What she says here. In the Enchanted Forest, there's always a door when you need one, eventually. The forest decides when your need is great enough to warrant a portal, and then sometimes it gives you more than one. The next stage of your journey is determined by the door you choose, so take your time. Don't rush through the first door that appears before you. Remember, this is a magical place, and things are not always as they're seen. Each door bears a different symbol, placed there by magic. Which one calls to you? And you can see some of the symbols right there, and there, and there, there as well. These symbols. Okay. So after we have the sevens, now we have the eights. Eight of Spells. I love it. The eights represent limitations, interference, and a hard task or difficult life lesson. Often the card doesn't show an actual problem. Rather, it shows ways you might react to the problem. Each of the eight shows a response to obstacles. The Eight of Spells says, act swiftly. You can see I can feel the energy of the owls as they take flight on that 8 of Wands, 8 of Spells. The 8 of Visions says, awaken from illusion. It's very interesting. Awaken from illusion. The 8 of Challenges says, think, don't struggle. And the 8 of Boons says, persevere to attain mastery. Oh, I like that. Let's see, 8 of Boons. The task of magically spinning nettles into gold was daunting at first, all stings and tangles, working against all sense to make something precious out of something so ordinary. Patiently, moving at the speed of learning, she threaded her spindles, running the fibers through her sensitive fingers as she spun. In time, she could see the progress of her skill. A snarled and fuzzy spindle where a gleam of gold was faintly seen. She is intent upon her task, and her confidence grows with each filled spindle. Now we move on to the 9s. So here we have the 9 of Spells. Although the 10s are technically the final cards in the Minor Arcana, the 9s are really where things wrap up. The 9s are the culminating cards for each suit, the most empowered, the most desirous, the most fearful, and the most contented. The 9 of Spells says, my magic can't be defeated. I love it. Who's watching her from the woods? I love it. And you know what? I'm glad not to see a pointed hat. It's just my personal thing. The 9 of Visions says, my wish will come true. There we have the coin dropping into the wishing well. I love it. Let's see. In an overgrown glade lie the ruins of a stone cottage, abandoned who knows for how long, 100 years? 500 perhaps? No one has come here in all that time to disturb its peace. The ruins shelter an ancient well, furred with moss and ringed with fringed gentians. You can smell the fresh water below, fed from a spring far older than the well. Take a coin from your pocket and clasp it to your heart with a fervent wish. Wait for the water to become still. See if you can spot the well keeper in its depths. When you are ready, when you believe, make your wish. On a closer look, it says, there's another way to make a wish. Can you see it? For those of you, if you're watching closely, I'm going to point it out to you, okay? So, spoiler, right there. Another way to make your wish. So, now we are at 9 of Challenges. Lost in the woods, a boy tucks himself as tightly as he can among some tree roots and prays he will be safe until morning. Everything he sees and hears is terrifying to him. He can't discern between what is a real threat and what is merely unfamiliar. The shining eyes, the creeping feet, the tiny cries. Oh, he should not have come to the woods at night. There is nothing to be done now but to wait for daylight. The hours until then crawl by as he trembles helplessly in his inadequate refuge. This card really isn't about danger, it's about fear. It's about the middle of the night terrors when you are helpless to do anything but worry. And I'll stop there. And so now we have the 9 of Boons. Wow. The 9 of Pentacles. And tiny things live in the forest. Be careful where you step and look sideways for glimpses of movement. You might spy something like this charming little nook inside a tree stump where a brownie has made her home. brownies are sociable as a rule, but this tiny lady finds her happiness in living alone. While town brownies are known for making themselves useful in humans' homes in exchange for offerings of milk and porridge, this brownie prefers to tend her own house and preserve her independence. So she moved to the forest, away from the gossip and the curiosity and unwanted suitors. Here she can have everything just so, with no interference. Her companion is a hummingbird hawk moth, with whom she shares a love of periwinkles and sweetberries. Brownies are very fond of brooms. Leave a tiny broom in a corner of your home if you want their help, or leave one in the woods for a forest brownie. Tiny broom. And then we get to the 10s now. 10s take the culminating energies of the 9s and turn them up one more notch, for better or worse. Empowerment becomes burnout, and fears become a terrible reality. Conversely, wishing leads to bliss, and contentment is enhanced by community. The 10 of Spells says the magic is squandered. Seven sisters, princesses making their way home after a night of dancing in the forest. They danced until they could dance no more, yet still they danced on, caught in the merciless spell until the night was spent. Now the sisters are utterly depleted, almost in shock. All they care about now is finding their own beds, except for the youngest. She tries to turn back, reaching out in longing, but her sisters hold her fast and forces her forward. Everyone's body language speaks of profound exhaustion and regret. The enchantment is broken. And the 10 of Visions speaks on the dream is fulfilled. And see, a group of unicorns is known collectively as a blessing. The blessing of unicorns is not about worldly success or material well-being, but rather about soul fulfillment and bliss. There is an element of immortality in this card. This is a joy that is timeless, eternal. No matter what happens, it is a spiritual touchstone. And of course, there is a closer look, but get the guidebook. And then we have the 10 of Challenges. And there's my weary knight. Let's see if I can fix this properly. Oh, the 10 of Challenges says, the quest has failed. Oh my. He is racked by despair and defeat. Many long years he has quested in this forest, pursuing a mythical beast who became his life's obsession. Along the way he fought bravely with countless other knights, never shirking in service to the causes of righteousness and nobility. But relentless time has claimed him at last. All the fight has left him, and the beast has not been seen for a very long time. The old knight's sword and helm are battered and rusted. His quest is over. Perhaps it was mad to begin with. Wow. The knight's helm bears a feather from the white raven, but that ally has flown. And that is what you see right there. And then we have the 10 of Boons, which I love. Here, let me take all those out. Put this here. And this is, the forest seems endless. You've been walking all day into the evening, hungry, tired, discouraged. You push yourself just a bit further, hoping to find some shelter from the night air. And then you hear music. Yes, and laughter, the sweetest sound a lonely wanderer ever heard. Following it, you come to a gathering hall filled with light and warmth and friendly faces. You are welcomed as kin by forest folk, for whom hospitality is second nature. Food and drink are put there before you, and you are invited to tell your tale. Your heart fills with a grateful relief. You have found more than a night's shelter. You have found your tribe. Wow. Community is a basic human need. One that we've sadly gotten away from in these modern times. This card says that your tribe, your clan, your kin awaits your arrival, or perhaps you are welcoming one. And the gathering hall is right where you are. As the last of the boon cards, the 10 reminds you that the greatest boon of all is like-minded fellows who stand by you in good times and bad. Whew. That made me very emotional. Anyway. Okay. So now, forest folk. These are your court cards, the people cards. All right? And it says here, I'm going to go on. Traditionally, each suit in the Minor Arcana has four court cards with names like Page, Knight, Queen, and King. These are usually seen as hierarchy, each card more powerful than the one before it, with the king on top. This deck tosses out the royal court and the hierarchy and renames these cards as Child, Seeker, Weaver, and Keeper, respectively. And I'm just going to briefly go through these rather quickly because you've been with me almost an hour. Wow. There's just so much in this deck. So we have a Child of Spells, and we have the Child of Visions, Child of Challenges, and your Child of Boons. Here we have your Seeker of Spells, which is female. I like that. We have a Seeker of Visions. I think that's male. I think that's a male. We have a Seeker of Challenges. That could be male or female. Don't know. I do like that bird on the shield. And then we have a Seeker of Boons. So those are your court cards. We have the Weavers, which are the queens, and I do like that. Her whole body is magic. Her whole body is the wand. This is what I'm taking. I haven't looked at the book, but I'm feeling that energy, that her whole body is a magic wand. Here's the Weaver of Visions, and this is a mer woman. I feel that with the fins on her feet, or fins and gills she has here, and under her arm there she has gills. Okay. We have Weaver of Challenges. I'm curious about her because I'm not really feeling. Who is she? Cold, emotionally withdrawn, overly critical, touchy. Let's see. The Weaver of Challenges makes your quest harder. Not necessarily for malice, though don't rule that out. More likely it is for your own growth or to prove your worth. She sets a puzzle or a task that requires your wits and intelligence rather than brute force. Like the wall of magical thorns she raises to block your way. The White Raven is her closest advisor, offering her the kind of detached objectivity she appreciates. She speaks her mind and provides needed clarity, often saying things others fear to say. She is fearless. Interesting. And then you have the Weaver of Boons. Earth Mother, genteel soul, ready to offer, and she really is Earth. I mean, she's barefoot on the ground. beehive there. I haven't read the books. I don't know what's there, but I'm just loving the imagery. A healthy garden, and she looks like someone I know, which is kind of bizarre and ironic. Anyway, now to wrap up, we have the keepers. And the keeper of spells. The 4 keepers represent the different aspects of masculine energy and power. These are the exemplars of their suits, often acting as teachers and guides. Keepers are protective, wise, experienced, and in command. They are all wizards, each a master in their sphere of expertise. Like the weavers, the keepers dwell within the forest and represent a more mature understanding of its enchantments. So, no, I did not read the brief for each of the suits, because I had to leave something for you guys. So we have, look at that, the Keeper of Visions. And that is a shape-shifting wizard whose Piscine aspect embodies ancient salmon wisdom. Legend has it that the salmon is the oldest of all creatures and has memories reaching back into the beginning of the world. The salmon is one of my animal spirits. In fish form, his cooler emotions allow for compassionate detachment. On land, his kind heart can overflow into grief at the world's cruelty. On the whole, he prefers to observe events from a distance rather than getting directly involved. His motto is, look below the surface. Seek him out when you need counsel on mystical matters. And the last card I have, I have the Keeper of Challenges. Oh, this guy right here. He's not evil, but he's not good either. This wizard is coolly neutral. The biggest challenge may be to just face him, to approach, and to ask for his help and guidance. If you're going to argue with him, have your facts in order. He is a cold nature in general. Even when he is being fair, he won't cut you any slack. Seek him when you are in need of a push to the next stage of your journey. And then we have the Keeper of Boons. There you have it. So that is a brief walk. Well, it's not brief. Almost an hour in. If you've been with me this long, thank you so, so much. Maybe I'll come back and do a spread. I think there's a spread here. She mentions one on page 2. I'll have to go back in. But I'm at minute 58. And with that, I say thank you so much for welcoming me into your home. Take care, stay blessed. Until we meet again.